Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
Okay, we are joined with the man himself, Stitch Duran. It is an absolute pleasure and an honour to speak to you, sir. You are a man who has got a wealth of experience in the combat world, and I have to say, admired your work. Thank you so much for coming on and speak to us.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. Sorry it took so long, man. I went through my messages, and I'm kind of like old school, right? So
yeah.
Going through my Facebook messages, and then I realized that there's like 300 messages that people had sent me when the UFC first let me go, and I felt like a fucking dummy, man. So I've been responding back to everybody, and obviously you guys were one of them, and you guys wanted to chat, and I'm always game for that. So I'm glad you didn't forget about me, man, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to touch base with me, and we could chat a little bit.
It was like getting a text from an ex-girlfriend from the past. Oh, you found my number again.
It's a trip, because I got messages from Hungary. I've got a guy that invited me to the Bahamas, which is a great resort area.
Nice.
When the UFC let me go, I got people that want to do seminars, and all these people, I responded back to every one of them.
Wow.
You didn't get us confused with the Bahamas one, did you? Because that ain't happening from here.
Yeah, man, I tried to kiss up to the guy. I said,
Yeah, we live on an island, but there's not many towels on the beach.
There's used condoms.
Few carrier bags, but no beers in them.
Yeah, I tell you what, the response was at that moment when that happened. You responded to a tweet. I did tweet about it as well, and that you must even now. That was an overwhelming experience. That must have been.
Yeah, and even to this point, it's crazy, man. Because everywhere I go, somebody will stop me and mention how much the UFC screwed up by letting me go, and everywhere. When I did the movie Creed, I was at the premiere.
Yeah.
And, Wesley Snipes comes up to me, and took me 2 or 3 seconds to realize who he was. But the first thing that came out of his mouth is not that, man, you did a great job in the movie. First thing that came out of Wesley Snipes' mouth was, man, the UFC screwed you.
Yeah, I was going to say, the UFC have done hundreds of wonderful things.
There's a couple.
But there's a few cock-ups they've really slipped up on. And to this day, I still can't get my head around it. And that's not just saying that because you're here.
I think everyone.
I'm still puzzled.
I think everyone's still a bit puzzled.
Yeah, I've stopped trying to work out that puzzle.
Since that craziness happened, let's say craziness, how's everything been for you generally though? How's life going for you since then?
Yeah, it's been tremendous actually, and and it took big balls on my part to do what I did, but at that point, I had to do it, because of the circumstances economically that it was affecting all of us, and I was quite politically correct, but when they let me go. Everybody worldwide just came forward and offered support, and I've been working events all over the world, and my boxing guys, had more opportunities, more dates to work boxing events, and I've been extremely busy, so Bellator got a hold of me, and they gave me a nice 3-year package, and I'm working, with the World Series of Fighting, Invicta, and I'm just doing so many other shows, and as a matter of fact, as you guys called, I'm in my 13th chapter. I'll let you guys know. You're one of the first to know that I'm into my second book. The first one was From the Fields to the Garden: The Life of Jacob Stitch Duran, and it went up to UFC 104 and it became a top seller on Amazon. On sports biography.
Yeah.
Well, this is a continuation, and people are going to want to know what. I have a bunch of stories. Right now I'm talking about the stories with me and Jake Ellenberger and Amir Sadallah and the guys from MMA Junkie Radio, where we went to Afghanistan to visit the troops, and we spent 11 days literally in the trenches with these guys, and that's the story that I'm reporting right now. But all that's going to be in the book, and it's going to be out before Christmas, man. So
lovely.
Hopefully you guys will touch base with me again, and you guys can help me support it.
Oh, absolutely. Backing that up. Jake Ellenberger, people won't think it when they see him in the way he's on the microphone, the way he is, but he's a bit of a party boy. He likes to go out and he has a good time with him and Adam Hunter as well. Them two cats go a bit wild with each other.
Well, you know, it's funny because I just went to go see Adam Hunter do his comedy show last Monday here at the Stratosphere, and he was glad to see me. But, you know, with Jake Ellenberger, when we were in Afghanistan, we couldn't party because they couldn't serve no alcohol there. But, yeah, I'm sure he could hang with the big boys, man.
Yeah.
I was supposed to have met up with Adam back in December, but there was a bit of a slip up with the medication. And
Adam, he's recovering from his ACL or MCL as well, surgery. He's on stage in crutches, I think, off the top of my head, isn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, he walked on stage. He had his crutches on and all that, and I told him that was a nice time for me to throw a low kick on him. I know he wouldn't be able to check it.
Hopefully he gets back quick as well. I know he wants to do a lot of the wrestling side of things, which is nice as well. I think he's trying to raise money to do like a film, I think, as well with wrestling off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know. You didn't mention that, but he definitely had us laughing, man. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's funny.
I'm just gonna for a period of time around the UFC release, you must have actually been probably the most loved person in combat sports for a period of time. It must have felt like that anyway, because I think everyone sort of came forward for you. I think, other than UFC, that is. You know, like I think just about every fighter, fan. I'm guessing other. Well, I don't know what the other cut men were saying, but I think just about everyone was like saying how wrong it was, and that must have felt actually quite special. You know, in a bad time, I would suppose.
Yeah, it was quite a mind-blowing experience, as a matter of fact. And, you know, I'll kind of give you some of the little side notes from the book. And I write that when that happened, I mean, immediately I started getting calls and texts and messages from everybody. And it was quite overwhelming. And you know, I think in the first week I did like 57 major interviews from guys from all over the world, you know. I had camera crews coming to my house. And
Not us.
I felt like that. Yeah, I felt like the guy that started the rebellion, right? And, but that support factor really came in handy, and because, you know, it was quite of a shock to me, actually.
Yeah.
I got the call right after the interview, and the only words that came out of, and this guy was my friend, keep in mind, so right? Mm-hmm. So he calls me, and I know his voice is shaking, and the only words that come out of his mouth is because of the interview you did about Reebok, the UFC is not going to use you no more. And, you know, I didn't want to bust his chops or anything like that. So I said, all right, you know, I appreciate, you know, the call and all that. But do me a favor, is you tell Dana I said that he ain't got no balls, that he should have called me personally. You know, so I kind of left it at that. And then from there, really the fans took over what I had started. And even, I mean, it got to the point where even the guy from Reebok had called me and tried to mend things up with me because the fans were just boycotting them and they were slapping Dana and the UFC and Reebok, and I just kind of sat back and read all these tweets and messages and kind of maybe instigated a little bit and retweeted some of them here and there and just kind of. But I was a happy camper and I was proud of what I did.
Yeah, and you know, you stuck by what you said, and do you know what? There's not a lot of praise being sung around Reebok, is there?
It was similar with Tim Kennedy situation where Tim Kennedy spoke out as well about it, and he kind of got put on the shelf, let's say. I know they're talking about him coming back and fighting Rashad Evans at Madison Square Garden. So, but that's interesting. But you know, they even, you know, they put him on a bit of a timeout kind of thing. It's
almost like you got to sing to
you got to sing their hymn sheet. You
got to sing their songs or.
It's a shame, but I understand that it's a business, and what they want is they don't want that kind of negativity. They don't want someone like standing there saying, I disagree. They want everyone to be agreeing. They kind of want everyone to go with the flow, but people need to speak up. I think anything in life, I think even with Bellator, if Bellator were doing something wrong in that kind of similar circumstance, I would hope that anyone in Bellator would do the same, or, you know, any organisation, whether it be boxing, whatever. I think, you know, you can't just sit there. I know that your career can be at stake for it, potentially, but sometimes you just need to stand up for the right thing.
Yeah, well, and I understood all that, and, you know, I worked corporate America for 23 years, so I understand the you know, what happens and how you be politically correct and all that, but, you know, it came to a point where the Cutman had tried to get a resolution and try to get at least an increase in pay or get some sponsorships, and we were always rejected, you know, so there was nothing else to do. and being, like say, under those circumstances with the fights, just to get paid what I was getting paid from the UFC was not fair compensation for the work that I had created for myself. Keep in mind, Burt Watson, myself, Leon Tabbs, Don House, we were the 4 original guys that started off with the UFC, and the program that we set there is still used not only in the UFC, but it's used just about every organization worldwide when it comes to how they handle the fighters in the back and how they get them ready, and even the cut men, how we wrap hands and how we work corners and how we work fights. We set that program up, and it's something that's being used worldwide now.
With the hand wrapping side of things, was that really trial and error on how to wrap a hand for MMA? Because I know you did boxing and everything else, but with MMA, obviously, was that just trial and error? Did you just get guys in the gym and play around with these guys and say, look, let me try this, let me try this? How did you actually come about with a technique and a method that works well? Because you've got different wraps. Because I've seen your video where you do a wrap if the guy likes to hit hard, you strap it a bit, you put a bit more layers on top, and if they want to be a grappler, you have a bit more loose around the wrist, so there's a bit more flexibility for movement like that.
Right. Well, that's a great question, and I tell you, for the thousands and thousands of questions I've been asked in my career, nobody's ever asked me that question.
You're working with professionals now,
Yeah, it's professionals, us too.
Yeah, live from the Bahamas.
Let me give it to you this way. When I got into the UFC, because I had first started in kickboxing, and then I got into boxing, and the wraps were all the same because you wear the same amount of gloves, same 10-ounce gloves. And but when I started working with Leon Tabbs, he was the original cut man from UFC #1, and he worked with Bernard Hopkins. He worked a lot of boxing guys, but he's the one that showed me that you couldn't put too much padding on the knuckles because the gloves were a lot smaller. So I followed the technique that he used. And then as I started getting familiar with the MMA wrap, and I started listening to these fighters having these different types of injuries, I made adjustments according to the type of injuries they had. And you're right. Now I have what I call the knockout wrap or the tap out wrap. I have a wrap that if their metacarpals are hurt, I could handle that.
Yeah.
Their knuckles, their thumb, their wrist, I have wraps for that. But it all started with Leon Tabbs really kind of guiding me and showing me what the MMA wrap was like. Good question, though, brother.
No, I was always curious. I thought, how do you just do it? I was just sitting there thinking, how would you just wake up and go, oh, we'll just try it? And I remember because I watched a video of it, and you were wrapping. I think it was someone who was interviewing you. You were wrapping his hand. You did it in both ways. I think off the top of my head, and I was watching you do it. And I thought, how did you think to do 2 different types of wraps as well? Obviously, I know there's grappling and strikers, but then again, I think because you're leaving guys a little bit exposed, and there's always risk. But then again, I remember you saying about how you would maybe do if they're orthodox, you'll do less padding on the left hand for the jab so they can grapple, and then you tighten up that right for that power hand as well, if I recall off the top of my head.
Well, there's so many different ones, and even like the Brazilian guys. When I first started working with them, they didn't want their thumbs wrapped, and I would make the adjustment, but then to me it would not make any sense because you take the wrap away from the thumb, then you lose all the tension.
Yeah.
And so I had to educate these guys. Look, let me wrap it to you. Let me wrap it this way. You do your grappling. If it doesn't feel comfortable, I'll cut it off. If it's comfortable, it's going to be a lot better for you, and you preventing injuries. So I changed a lot of the Brazilians, to have their thumb wrap.
Because Vitor must have been a bit of a difficult one because his hands are known. He's had like 6 surgeries on his hands. He must have been a difficult one if he ever wrapped his. Obviously,
I always wrapped Vitor's hands. He was, I wrapped everybody's hands. But Vitor's, he's one of my favorite guys, and he's a good friend of mine. But one of the things, and you're right, he always had brittle hands.
Yeah.
And one of the adjustments that I made with Vitor that he brought up upon himself is, we always go between the fingers, right? And kind of lock in that padding.
Yeah.
Well, with Vitor, he wanted me to do it twice. So I used 2 different strips for, between each finger, and then I would lock it in. So I would lock it in on the bottom of the palm where that little bar is at, and then I would send it through the fingers, and then he would close his hand, and real tight, I would lock in that padding, and I did it for all three of the fingers where the thing would go. So that was his design, and I learned off of that.
Oh, nice. So so you obviously picked stuff up obviously during the course with obviously fighters as well, depending on their types of hands. So I imagine then it got to the stage where you kind of had every wrap in a way kind of locked. Do you feel like you've got every wrap there is locked down now? Do you feel like you've kind of got that array of wrap styles? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have the major formula down, no doubt about it. And when I work with a fighter for the first time, I'll try to do some test runs with him, and then and then find out which one of the three, let's say, he likes the best, and then we'll lock that one in. And but a lot of times I'll meet a fighter for the first time and I'll wrap their hands, but I give them the basic wrap, and then I say, look, I'll give you this basic wrap, and this is one that I use like 90% of the time. Any adjustment you want, I could always make an adjustment. But 90% out of that 100%, these fighters like the wrap that I use on a regular basis.
I actually wrap hands myself. Obviously, I wouldn't put myself in the same
you taught Stitches.
yeah. We go way back.
Oh yeah, he's
yeah. If you was to now, when I go to some of the shows, I see some pretty diabolical efforts.
We do, yeah. We do see some bad efforts.
I'm not saying I'm the best, but I like to think that I'm definitely not the worst.
Well, you know Adam Stitch from the UK.
Sure.
Yeah, I got Adam to do. Was it Adam who got the session?
It was Jamie.
Or Jamie Sheldon. Sorry.
Adam and Jamie have both helped me greatly, and I'm forever thankful to them. And if I've ever got a question, I can contact them, and they're always helpful. And
sure.
they're fantastic. But if you were to pass on some advice, like general advice to any would-be cut men, whether it be starting off or what would you think would be the most valued advice you could pass on?
Well, first and foremost, I would tell them is wrap your own hand. Number one is you have to go to the gym and you have to donate so much time and practice on these fighters. You practice, and you get the formula down. But the one important thing that I always tell them is wrap your own hands, because as you practice wrapping on these fighters' hands, you'll have a fighter who say it's too tight here or too loose there or it hurt. Well, if you wrap your own hands, you'll understand exactly what they're feeling, and then and do that. But I used to wrap my own hands and put some gloves on and go to the bag and punch the bag out for a while, and then just so you have to feel, you have to know what these fighters are going through.
No, it's a very smart move actually. You have to wrap your hands. Well, I've seen her strike. I've seen her striking.
Having said that, my bones might just break anyway. Just from wrapping.
I've seen Mike striking. Let's not do that. You'll miss the bag.
And I've not got the best bones in the world. So,
so one thing I was curious about was cuts and kind of swellings, and obviously that minute between that pressure minute. It's almost, for me, I've always described it as that Formula One racing in that pit stop where everything's got to be in tune, in sync. Do you drill? I know it may sound so to people, but do you drill that at all? Do you go to gyms and then go in there and practice with that and get guys when they're sparring and have a little go with it, just to keep kind of form, maybe see something new? Do you do stuff like that at all?
No, I don't.
Fair enough.
No, but I do.
Maybe that's where you're going wrong, Stitch.
Is that what it is?
That's lesson number 2 to you. I can. You start doing that. The UFC might phone you tomorrow.
Yeah. No, but I'm always studying corners, whether it's on TV or whether they're live fights and all that. And but at this point, I pretty much have the formula down.
Yeah.
As to what to do when I get there, and it's as Mike Tyson said, boxing's a real simple sport, and it really is. He says
maybe it's him.
But as you look at the work that we do, and it's all proper techniques used at a proper time.
Yeah.
And if you understand those techniques and know what to use, when to use them, and how long to use it for, then it makes your job a lot easier. And I think I've done enough fights to know that. What I have, the formula that I have, worked. So,
did you watch the Diaz-McGregor bout?
I didn't, but I'm getting calls, and
I'm curious. I would love to know your answer. Then, when you do watch it, my question, right, is what lost Diaz that fight was the 4th round, and the reason was he got the cuts, and then the blood, I don't think, was stopped sufficient enough, and it's caused problems in his sight. It was affecting his eyes, and that stopped him in the 4th round, putting any pressure on. And then the 5th round came. They obviously applied whatever they need to do correctly, and his eyes, obviously, his sight came back a lot better, and everything was clearer. And the 5th round was a different ballpark. I would love to get your opinion on maybe what could have been done, and maybe what you would have done even to an extent. If you get around to watching it, I'd love to know your opinion. But when you watch it, do you even, are you in contact with all his cut men still? Do you because I know Big John McCarthy, we spoke to Big John a while back, and he said how, he speaks to referees, he'll contact them if they maybe made a decision wrong during a bout, maybe called something wrong here and there. He offers advice. Do you do that yourself? Do you contact guys that maybe you see during fights thinking, he really shouldn't have done that, he should have done X, Y, and Z?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of my jobs is to educate and keep educating. But if someone, this one girl that I just saw her working, she's a cut woman in a boxing show, and she's working on the left side of the fighter, but she's using her right hand to apply Vaseline on the guy's face, and she's backwards in that. And I let her know that, as you're working on the left side, you actually apply the Vaseline, or you do your work with your left hand, because everything is positioning, and if you use your right hand, you're behind him for the most part. So I do. The guys that want to learn. The guys.
Yeah.
Sometimes the old school guys have egos, and they think they know it all, and they don't want to hear it all. And, but the ones that ask, I'll try to help them out as much as possible. Absolutely. And even the guys from the UFC, they still stay in contact with me, and offer. They tell me things that are going on behind the scenes and all that, and I try to help them out at least. Just because we're friends.
Yeah, of course.
And to be honest with you, there is only a small pond of people to actually learn this from. You know what I mean? It's and I think if you're new to it, or not necessarily even if you're new, you know what I mean? If somebody actually passes advice, especially if it's good advice, you should take it on board. It's
keeps a fighter in a fight. That's the best way to put it.
And you know what? It makes you better at your own job, and everyone should want to be the best at whatever they do in life. You know what I mean? And that means learning from people.
On that. And let me give you a little side note with Nate. I had after the first fight with McGregor, I had seen Nate and Nick. I think it was a Bellator in San Jose, California, and we take a picture. And and I've always been good friends with Nate and Nick, and we're all from the 209 area and all that stuff. And he's Mexican, I'm Mexican, that type of stuff. But I've always taken care of him, right? And I told Nate, I said, look, man, if you guys ever fight again, you got to have me work your corner, and the UFC says that if you guys want, you could hire me, you could pay me. I said, look, man, but I got to charge you. I'll charge you $1 just to work your corner, and, but I guess he didn't take it, as me, being truthful. And, but, maybe on the next time, if there is a trilogy or something like that, he'll consider using me.
Oh, I'd hope so. That'd be awesome for $1. I'd like to see him giving $1 to you as well.
I'd even pay that just to see you back there.
Yeah, tell you what. Yeah, tell Nate we'll pay the $1.
Yeah, we'll do that $1. We can't do the Bahamas for you.
Yeah,
but we can
do the $1.
Remember the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy?
Yeah,
yeah.
That was all for a bit of $1.
Yeah.
They had that $1 bet, and that's what I would have charged him.
Oh, that would have been class.
That would have been class. I tell you what. When you work corners with fighters, and you know fighters outside of the cage, and even in boxing as well, you've worked obviously multiple kind of combat sports. The relationships you build with them, does that just obviously transitions through in your life? You feel people. Do you just feel that the kind of community with it? Then do you enjoy that kind of community and just kind of socializing with them as well?
Well, you do to a certain point, and keep in mind, a lot of these fighters aren't big party guys. Maybe in the MMA world, but not in boxing, not the guys I work with. But, yeah, there's a bond that we always have together. And, excuse me, just like a fighter, when you guys train with each other, you break sweat, there's a certain type of bond. Well, the same thing with me being a cut man. When I work with these guys in the fights, and I keep them in there, there's that certain bond that we always have together, and you'll never lose that, and and I've had the privilege of working with so many guys where, there's been countless guys that literally give me a kiss on the cheek and tell me they love me. And these are men, these are fighters, right? And I know it means a lot to them because I know it means a lot to me.
That so has to happen at the right time, though.
Well, yeah. You can't do it in front of my wife, right?
yeah. You don't want to be on your own, like walking home or something.
Right. Yeah, holding hands. Or...
yeah,
That's out of the question.
Yeah.
I was going to say
that field looks quiet.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Like, being the part of the reason why, for example, like a boxer won like a world title because you kept that swelling down. You stopped helped that bleeding get away. That must be huge.
I was actually going to add a question to that one. Is there a fight that actually stands out? In your memory of where you think to yourself, like, I really kept him in that one. Like that one stands out over all the others. Where you.
Well, there's there's plenty actually, but if you the last Rory McDonald Robbie Lawler fight, when his lip was split open, and people don't realize that he also had like a 3-4 inch cut.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah.
Right from an elbow, right?
Yeah.
But Robbie, ended up winning that fight, and I saw him the next day because we had an event the following day, and I see him in the back, and his lip is sewn up and all that. But he thanked me. He says, "Thanks, man. It for keeping me in the game and helping me win this fight." But even Vladimir Klitschko, when first fight that I worked with him after he lost his world title to Layman Brewster, he got cut against Devereux Williamson, and I saved his ass, and something that he appreciated. So I've made a lot of money for a lot of fighters, brother, and keeping them in the game, and that's one of the glories that I get with the work that I do.
I suppose the biggest
and only $1 a fight.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that was only.
I imagine.
I tell you what, you got people going to be hammering your phone tomorrow saying, "Why are you charging me
dollar
this?"
bills.
Some people get $1. Yeah.
I was going to say, Diego Sanchez must probably be the worst nightmare for any cut man.
Diego was what you call an automatic bleeder.
Yeah,
right? He was like the Arturo Gatti of boxing, and matter of fact, I was talking about Marcus Davis also.
Yes. Wow.
Even Ross Pearson. These guys they're gonna get cut only because of the style of fighting that these guys do. But yeah, Diego Sanchez was definitely he was a cut man's dream.
Yes.
I was going to add. I can remember a fight with Dan Hardy against Amir Sadallah. In Nottingham.
Yeah.
And he got cut to ribbons. I forget how many cuts he had. But he was, he looked like he'd been over a cheese grater or something. He might have had like 5 or 6 all around the eyes. You know what I mean? It's not like they were up high on the head. They were all around the eyes. I was chatting to him after that fight. And I was looking at him and
trying to stare.
You were thinking like, how many nails did he have in his gloves? Dan Hardy, he was literally ribbons.
Sometimes that's scar tissue.
I don't know if you worked. I know you worked that night, but I don't know if you were with Amir or with Dan Hardy for that fight. I'm not sure.
Man, I'm not sure either, brother.
Yeah, that's going back a few years. I think that's 2012. So I might let you off on that one.
Might let you off, yeah. That's a couple of fights.
We'll give you that.
Oh, man.
Mike, but I got to give you credit, man. You're pretty sharp with your comebacks, man.
He does all right. He has his moments.
Yeah, my memory's about the only thing still going for me. My body's broken, but my skull was about the last bone that's holding on there. It's, yeah.
So you have a future as a comedian, right?
Yeah, people do laugh at him.
Yeah. Sometimes it's normally when I don't say anything, though.
Yeah, not with him, just at him.
Yeah. Blessed.
Yeah, blessed. Yeah. A lot of people say that about you. Yeah. Stitch, but you went to Afghanistan. Let's have. Do you mind talking? I know you're writing about it, but do you mind talking a little bit about maybe some of the experience you did, and just kind of what it was like being there, hanging out with them, kind of getting a feel for that?
Yeah, I tell you, it was literally a mind-changing experience for me because, we went and part of the Armed Forces Entertainment, and it was Goals and George from MMA Junkie Radio put it together. And like I say, it was me, Amir Sadallah, Jake Allenberger, and them two, and then we broadcasted out of Afghanistan. But, we flew literally into the heart and soul of the battlefields, and we were in Bach. Did you guys see Lone Survivor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was that same base that we were based out of, but we had bodyguards that were literally 24/7. You know, they set it up with helmets and flak vests, and they told us where the bunkers were at in case there was any incoming. And so we were in a battle zone, no doubt about it. But we would fly from that base to these what they call FOBs, and where the special forces were at, the commandos and all that stuff, and we would go, and Jake and Amir would roll with these guys, and we would have question and answer periods, and I would wrap a couple guys' hands, and in fact I was just writing right now for the book where we went to Camp Moorhead, which was a place for the commandos, and as we landed in the choppers, and you got all these guys, these soldiers around the perimeter, you know, fully armed. And then once we land, then they escort us into the compound. But there was some Afghan soldiers that wanted to come and meet us, and we kind of looked outside the door, and they're being frisked by the commandos, you know. And even though these guys were allies, there was still that point of, you know, these guys would become martyrs if they come and, you know, blew our asses up. But there was a couple stories that really kind of hit home for me, and one of them, we were at the Chahau, and this guy from Poland says, you know, Stitch, he goes, I studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that gave me the common effect to accept death. And he says that as I hear these bullets coming at me, they're going bing, 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 you know, and so many, you know, words. He says, you know what? I said, if I'm going, I'm taking you with me, you know. And I'm thinking, wow, that was pretty solid, right? And then we're walking around one of the shops and all that, and I run into this guy from Croatia, and because there was a whole coalition, you know, British, Australians, everybody they were all there. And this guy from Croatia recognizes us, and, hey, man, what's up, guys? And he's in civilian clothes, and says, look, man, I want to take a picture. Take a picture. So it was me and Jake and Amir, and we take a picture. And then he tells Amir and Jake, listen, he says, look, man, no offense to you guys, I want to take a picture with this guy, which is me. He goes, and then puts his arm around me. He goes, I'm not a fighter, I'm a killer. And I'm thinking, shit. You know? I'm glad he's on my side, you know. But, yeah, there was, you know, just hanging out with the special forces. There was this big old guy, still they call Silverback, and we're friends even till now. But, you know, we walk in, and he was like on his 7th tour. And, you know, I'm looking at him, and he says, Stitch, my wife loves you, and I love you. And I'm thinking, man, I'm in good hands, brother. You know, yeah, but it was quite insane, man. And, you know, I take a picture with all the special forces, and like I said, they all have their weapons. And so I'm asking one of these guys, I say, hey, look, man, can I hold your weapon? You know, he goes, hold on. So I guess he runs into the barracks and comes back, and he has an AK-47 and says, yeah, I took this off of the Taliban. So that's the weapon that I use. I put over my arms, over my head, and that's the one we took the photo with.
Oh, man, that's a badass story. I was just
it was insane. I mean, just, you know, just to be flying in the Blackhawks, you know, you had gunners on each side. We had the, you know, I mean, just like in the movies, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the thing about it, you know, the choppers are kind of loud, and everybody has earplugs. And well, I decided to put my own headphones on, and I slammed to Carlos Santana, is my favorite guy, right? I'm just slamming on. I had the volume all the way up, and I'm just cruising in this Blackhawk from one base to the other, and I'm just freaking out, man. I'm thinking, shit, what am I doing here? You know? So I was enjoying my life, man.
I was going to say,
that's when you start living.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must have been, like, thinking about it now, like, the opportunities from doing what you do, you wouldn't have thought that maybe when you started doing this, not even just MMA, just in general.
Yeah, that was something I never would have even considered. I mean, I would have always considered it. I'm the kind of guy that I'll do it. I want to do it. I want to be adventurous, but I never thought I'd go into the heart and soul of Afghanistan and really the heart and soul of the American forces. Not only the American forces, but the whole coalition. I was there, right in the middle, and I remember the first day we get there, we're getting briefed by General McConnell, which is a 2-star general, and he gets, and this is our first day there, right? He gets a phone call, and he has a speakerphone on, and it turns out that the Taliban had just finished assassinating a governor from one of the other provinces. So that was our introduction to Afghanistan. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, we're here in the real deal, man. You know, but we loved it.
I was going to say, I've got a question. I'm ex-forces myself, and I've been to some of these gigs, you know, when you're out in like Bosnia and stuff like that. and they bring like like a comedian or a band over, and you get a few dancing girls and all that. My question is where do they hide the frigging showers? Because we weren't allowed to have a shower for months on end, and yet these dancing girls come on stage with all their hair done, their makeup, and they're spotless, and you're thinking, how did she get a shower? I haven't had one for months, and I'm caked in 4-week-old shit around me. Like,
he still hasn't had a shower now.
Yeah, I'm still wondering where it is.
No, and you're absolutely right, and that's why I had so much respect for you guys on what you guys did, because you guys were literally right in the forces, and just for me to wear that black vest and to wear that helmet, that shit's pretty heavy, right?
Yeah.
But when you guys are fully loaded and locked and loaded with your ammo and all that, and you basically have to carry that around 24/7, there's a whole new bit of respect that I have for guys in the military that go out there and do what you guys do. So, my props to you and all the other guys that are defending our countries, And another story with the Blackhawks, and we're leaving ISAF, and it's nighttime, so we're running towards the choppers, and they got all their lights off and all that, and I buckle in and all that. Well, I decide I want to take a picture of the gunner, right? And as we're taking off, I take a picture of the gunner, not knowing that these night visions and flashes don't go together.
No.
Right? So I took
don't look at the pre-sparks, like.
Yeah. I took a picture of him, and he had his night visions on. I couldn't see his eyes, but I just knew they were burning in him, and he's saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" So there's a reason why the lights are off, right?
Oh.
We're in a combat zone, and I felt like an idiot, but I got the picture.
I'm also going to let you into a bit of a secret. Before you think we're heroes with the body armour, the heart plates you wear over, you have a heart plate on the back and the front. That's like the heaviest part of the body armour. What we tended to do was, when there was no grown-ups around, we used to take the heart plates out and stick them in our Bergen, because there's a common sort of reality that nobody in the army can actually hit shit. So if they are going to shoot you, they're probably going to get you in the leg, the arm, or something like that. The chances of hitting you the heart is totally wrong. So, it's like, there's no point in having a heart plate. And a heart plate literally is like, it's, like 8 inches, 8 to 10 inches by 6 inches, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just metal. That's all.
And yet, a figure 11 or figure 12 target is the size of a man, and half the time they're missing them. So the chance to get a heart plate. So we used to take it out and hide it, but you were supposed to leave it in, but because it weighed so much, you'd take it out, and because you always used to tell yourself that you weren't going to get shot anyway. So why do I need a heart plate?
And that was it. I guess probably like this guy from Poland, where you learn to accept death, right?
Yeah.
Well, you say it's not going to happen to you. You'll say it will happen, but it won't happen to me. Otherwise, you wouldn't get through it. You know what I mean? You have to say, "Oh, I'll be fine." And sometimes people are wrong.
When you obviously worked, visited the forces, let's say, did you think when you're back home? Do you maybe think about maybe doing something with them? I know that a lot of the forces, they do boxing events and all that stuff. Have you thought about maybe getting involved in a way, maybe helping out, maybe doing some like fundraising or stuff, or just like fun nights like that?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look at my outfit that I wear during fights, I always wear a combat pin that the Special Forces gave us. The last day we were there, they had the first day we were there, they had like 13 in company. And then the last day they had a big car explosion, so, but they gave us that just really as an award of being there and supporting them. But I wear it for these guys, not only the Special Forces, but all the guys in the military that are out there doing what they do. I've done a second trip. I did a trip. This one was to Europe. Actually, I went to the UK. I went to Germany, Holland, and all that. I went with Tim Kennedy, Marcus Davis, Coe Escovedo, and that was more of a vacation compared to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
We had a big old party bus, and we just traveled throughout Europe and visiting the troops. And, I felt cheated, because this wasn't the same,
Yeah, I was going to say the American camps in Germany, it's almost like you've stepped foot in America. Because all of a sudden you see the dollar bills and, you've got McDonald's, because the British camps are nothing like that. I shit you not, you use the currency of where you are, and, you don't really get a lot of brand stuff, it's all like naffy. Whereas in America, You do have a McDonald's on the camp. You have got a cinema. You know, you have got. It is. It's like you've stepped.
All the Gucci
you
stuff.
Literally, you are in Little America.
Yeah,
you know,
because
I know, like it's.
Because like Brian Stan does a lot of stuff. Obviously, he's an easy one to pick with the work he does. I just wondered maybe if there's something that obviously you mentioned Tim Kennedy there. He's somewhere in the world right now, posting on Snapchat some crazy video that he does, which I enjoy watching. But as I was wondering if the stuff that you do there, the kind of bond that you've made with them, and it's just great to see it. Really, I think the fact that you've done it and you've done it a second time now, and it's just something you enjoy doing. I love it.
And it does make a difference.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but every time I went to Germany with either Vladimir or Vitaly Klitschko, keep in mind Zach Robinson, that's the author of my book, just happens to be a school teacher at Kaiserslautern, which is one of the bases in Germany. And so every time I would go to Germany, I'd go visit the troops in the hospitals. And these guys are the ones that are just fresh off of, coming back from either whether it was Bosnia or Afghanistan or something. And I remember this one guy, when I went to the hospital, I guess he had got shot in the leg, and he had just gotten there because his wife had just gotten there and was sitting next to him, and she had tears in her eyes. And I walk in, and he looks at me, and, "Hey, Stitch, what's up?" And he asked me, he shows me his leg, and says, "Stitch, what can you do with this?" And I just kind of freaked out, right? But I figured I had to man up. And I put my hand on his leg, and it was so hot, I guess just from the damage of the round.
Yeah.
And I had to man up. I said, "Man, I'm going to give you some positive energy," right? So I left it at that, a little shooken up and all that. But months later, Don House and I are flying out of Las Vegas to an event, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, Stitch, how you doing? I met you in Germany." Well, it happened to be that guy, man. And I mean, I'm getting chills right now, but I got chills when he was telling me. And he said, "Man, I tell you what," he goes, I asked him, "Well, how's the leg?" He goes, "Oh, it feels great, and I appreciate you, but you being there meant so much to me that it gave me that energy that you said you were going to give me." So those moments like that, to me, they mean everything. And I live for that, and it makes my life a lot stronger.
That's awesome.
Did he manage to keep it? Did he?
Yeah, he kept it. Yeah, he was walking,
right.
and like I say, it was him and his wife, but he just stopped me, and people stop me all the time, right? But he's telling me that he met me in Germany and didn't really say at that point. And he wasn't in Afghanistan. He was somewhere, I think, like in Africa or something like that. Because he really didn't want to identify the location he was at, because I don't think these guys are supposed to have been there. And, But yeah, he was walking and feeling fine.
Awesome stuff. Was the wife pretty?
I can't remember, but she was one of the fat ones, I think.
It must have been a bad wound.
Was it?
Just how high up his leg were you touching him?
That's some positive vibes right there.
Yeah. It's not there, Stitch.
Wrong leg.
Yeah, I was going to say, when somebody shoots you in the leg, you just thank God that it wasn't too far to the left or the right,
Yeah.
You say, "Oh, I'm so glad it hit the leg."
Hot, man.
Oh man, yeah, that's probably like say infection or something could be causing.
Yeah. Normally, that's a big time sign for infection.
That's how crazy is the fact that you got involved in combat sports, you end up going into the cornering, the corner side of the cut man stuff, and now you're not only affecting people's lives like you have, but also it's affecting your life in a way. It's how crazy is that to go from wrapping someone's hand to just making sure their cut's okay to doing moments like that? That is amazing.
It's incredible, and that's why this second book that I'm coming out with, it's relaying a lot of the stories that have happened since 104 to this point.
Yeah.
Even before I went to Afghanistan, one of the cutmen that worked with us, he passed away a couple of days before Muhammad Ali and Kimbo Slice. Huitzi Mata, I don't know if you guys recognize him. He was an Aztec by nationality, but he was like a shaman. And he had invited me to go do a sweat lodge and then take some ayahuasca with him, right?
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, and for the longest time, I wanted to do it, but I always had weekends booked. And finally, I had this weekend booked, and I went and I spent a weekend over there with him. And throughout that whole process of tripping out on ayahuasca, there was always that bird eagle and that bear, and he was telling me that, you know, the eagle is your strength and the bear was your, or the eagle was your wisdom and the bear was your strength. And it really didn't come to fruition until I landed in Afghanistan. And it turned out that my vision was seeing these guys that were the strength, that bear, which were the strength of what they did. So everything came into place when I got there, and that made that trip so much more enjoyable, because what I had seen in my visions, I now got to see firsthand.
Oh man, that must have been a hell of a trip. I know Dan Hardy did an ayahuasca trip as well. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I tried to talk to Dan into, you know, us doing it together with we see, and but he had gone through that process also. And it'll give you the whole, everything I always knew was beyond what we normally live in life. I got to see it. I always knew it was there.
You tempted me. You make me want to do it, Stitch. You're making me want to go and try this out, man.
Yeah, it's remarkable, brother. You know, and so, but that just opened up my whole eyes, and I got to see the reality of it. You know, it just everything fell in place, and you know, you were kind of explaining to me, John, you know, how everything has fallen in place for me, and you know, the lucky things that I've done and all that, and it has. It's been a tremendous ride, and you know, sometimes I always wonder, you know, why me? You know, but then I realized it has to happen to somebody. Yeah. And I just happen to be that somebody, you know, so I'm milking the shit out of it. You know, I'm enjoying life as much as possible.
I can actually remember the first UFC I took my uncle to. It was 168, you know, Anderson Silva against Chris Weidman, the rematch.
Oh, yes.
And my uncle I introduced him to pretty much everyone. He walked into the elevator and Anderson Silva was there and didn't recognise him.
Didn't know who it was, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was like, oh, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? I introduced him to you, and he went, oh yeah, you're the guy in the corner. And he knew you and didn't know anyone else. So, yeah, you know, your face is that recognisable. Yeah. Yeah. You could be on a coin.
I got that face, and I think we were in Canada one time, and Burt Watson and I were walking. This lady says, "Hey, you're the greaser, huh?" Well, you know, not a good thing to say if you're Mexican. You know? That's one of the derogatory words. You know, they call us a greaser, right? And I said, I know what you mean, but that's not the terminology.
There's a compliment in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck off, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's a great. You're the greaser. Bless her heart. Yeah. Oh, what a sweetheart. Yeah. Oh,
do you know what? Talking about Dan Hardy.
Yeah.
You know, one of the messages that I got during my dismissal is, as a matter of fact, I'm going to try to look for it, because I'm going to try to put it in the book because it meant so much. He said to the effects of something that a whole legacy, or basically what used to be, I was the last of the guys that used to be.
Yeah.
And I got to dig up that tweet, but that was such a strong message that he had put out there. I had told Zach Robinson that I got to look for that text because it meant so much. The ending of an era. That's what he called. That's what he said.
Well,
and I thought that was appropriate.
Yeah,
I was going to say, like, you know, if somebody is literally a UFC follower and that's all they go to, you know, like, because some people do think there's no MMA outside of the UFC.
Mm.
You know what I mean? There are people like yourself and Butch that you're just not going to see around again anymore. And do you know what? That's kind of not a nice thought.
I don't like it. It's weird. I find it weird now. I can't get my head. When you see the guys come up to the weigh-ins and there's no Burt going bananas.
Oh, sorry, Burt. Sorry, why did I say Butch?
I know, it's all right.
Yeah, stupid brain.
When I see it and I don't see Burt then, I'm like, it just doesn't feel the same. I just miss that. You know, we're rolling, you know, that there's an energy to it, you know, there's something.
And he's fake. I mean, like, you think to yourself, like Joe Rogan has now only got like a 1-year deal now.
Yeah, he's doing a year back.
Like, he mightn't be on the way, you know. Like
Joe goes,
okay,
Mike
by choice, mine, but
Joe goes, Mike goes.
The faces are all sort of, and
it happens.
I mean, it'll exist and it'll carry on. But for the ones that have been around, like watching it from the really early days, like, you know, I mean, I've been around it since number 2.
But
you know, and it's like
it's weird.
You know, you kind of want to put you in deep freeze and just digging you out every Saturday. You know what I mean? It's just keep you know.
One of these days, you just never know, right?
Trilogy.
But you're right. You know, we're the ones that put that program together, and we were the faces. That's like getting rid of Bruce Buffer. You know, you got Herb Dean, John McCarthy.
Yeah.
You got Joe Rogan. You got
Bingo.
Bruce Buffer. You had myself, and you had Burt Watson.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
just a handful of faces. Just
and they, you know, you've all got that major part of making that mold.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, you did make a product. You know, okay, there was guys that dipped a load of money into it.
Well,
and all the rest of it.
They laid a foundation.
But every, you know, there's just literally like if you put you all in a room, that's not a big party. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's,
be a good party.
You know,
a good one.
Yeah, it'd be some good stories, like. But you know what I mean? Like, that's not a big group of people, like. And, and when you look at what it is now, you know what I mean? It's like there was just a small handful of people that shaped that.
Like when we talked to Big John, some of the stories we got off him because he was obviously there for UFC 1. It was just some of the stories were just crazy. Because I read the Art Davey book, and you know, reading that, obviously learned about Big John prior to all this, and it was just nuts when you got to speak to John as well, the knowledge that he has, and that's what you guys are. You're just like this bounty of knowledge and experience. It's awesome, and Stitch, that's what, you know. Well, first, that's why we wanted you on. That's what you are to us. You know, you're like this.
You're history, dude.
You're
staying on there.
You're history. It's as simple as that. You're never going to go away. That's kind of set in stone. That's why me and Mike have had an absolute pleasure speaking and having you on. It's just been our joy, and I can't wait the fact that you're writing a book now to continue on from 104. Like there's going to be more like stories for people to learn about and find out more about what you've been doing as well, especially since the split, let's say, from the UFC.
But it's good to still see you around, like, you know. It's,
well, see you on every. Well, I watch him. I love what I watch Invicta. Love the Invicta cards.
We even see you on boxing shows, obviously, you know, and it's.
Well, you're never going to go because look, you're never going to go anywhere because you're so skilled and talented. Everyone's going to be wanting, but
and they're going to find a way of freezing you.
And we'll figure that out. But Stitch,
we'll get it. We'll try it out on a few
We'll test on some
locals or something first.
Yeah. But before we let you go, Stitch, I know you've got your own let's say cut kit. Let's say your own wrapper and stuff like that. How can people go on and maybe go to your what sites have you got? What kind of links have you got and stuff like that, buddy?
Well, yeah, you know, I have my own line of Cutman supplies. They're Stitch Premium. But, you know, Bad Boy has, you know, it's funny. Robin Hoffner, the owner of Bad Boy, I had met him in Brazil, and, you know, we're trying to hit him up on sponsors, and he says he don't get involved with Cutman, and I told him about the tape, and said he wasn't interested, and then we do the MMA awards like 4 or 5 months later, and he calls me aside. He said, you know, Stitch, I did some research, and, you know, tape was one of the fastest turnover items in the industry, and can we talk? You know, so anyway, turns out that they're handling all my distribution and you know, the products and all that. So anybody, if they want any of the Stitch Premium tape or the KO swells or the wrist wraps and all that, go to badboy.com.
Oh, sweet, Bad Boy. Yeah, they have got some killer kit in there as well, Bad Boy. I love the stuff they're doing there. Stitch, then, what about social media? You know, people want to, I won't say get a reply from you, but if anyone...
Well, they do. They just got to be patient.
Yeah.
Hang in there, like, you know.
If anyone thinks about becoming a cut man and wants to maybe message you in a year to find out an answer in a year's time, how can he contact you?
Well, you know, I guess hashtag Stitch Duran on Instagram and at Stitch Duran on Twitter. Anywhere else, they can call you and you can get a hold of me.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, call us.
Just hang in there, guys. And you know what you've shown me? You showed me never give up.
And also, people need to put Barbados in the message.
Yeah, mention Barbados and then just put some foreign words in, not Spanish. You'll probably have that down.
Yeah, put some Barbados and you're fine.
Yeah, put a bit of Japanese in there or something.
Stitch, we want to let you get back to your book because I want you to get writing that book. I want that book out, like you said, for Christmas. That is, yes. I'll buy that Christmas present for myself so I can enjoy that over my own Christmas period and sit down and watch it.
Is there any pictures in it?
Oh, yeah, well, I'm sure there will be.
Oh, there you go.
I'm happy then.
John's happy now.
I'm happy now. Pictures, that's what I need. I pop up pictures are even better.
Normally all he does is he reads the numbers in the corner and the pictures.
Yeah, and as soon as it goes over 10, I get a bit blurry and feel a bit faint.
Yeah, all right. Well, let me ask you guys, because, you know, the title's going to be the same, because the first book was From the Fields to the Garden, The Life of Jacob Stitch Duran, right? Well, this one is going to be a continuation, so it's going to be called From the Fields to the Garden. Now, should the second verse be One More Round, Part 2, Round Second, or UFC Me Now?
Why not?
I like the UFC Me Now.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
I do like
the
that
UFC scene
because
yeah,
do you know what? I like that you're not scared to talk.
Yeah, but it's
You know what I mean?
it's like
what can they do? They can't touch you.
I like that UFC.
Yeah,
I like
I do
that
like
one.
that.
That, I would definitely own that one.
Do you know what? And we're not scared to say what we think either.
No, we well, do you know what we praise and we have constructive criticism. That's what we like to always do. And if
Love you
there's
guys.